Well, we're ready for a great weekend of baseball. Three good teams in here visiting Columbia, and it should be four teams really getting after it all weekend. A lot of respect for the teams that are here. We know their histories. We know the types of seasons they've had this year to get here. So we're ready. I think we're well rested. We're as healthy as we've been in a long time. So now it's just a matter of going out and playing good baseball and see what happens.
All right, let's start with Dave.
Howdy, Mark. Thanks for doing this. So you just mentioned the team's health. How are Wimmer, Khalil, and Malone in terms of playing tomorrow?
Yeah, I anticipate they'll all be able to play. We had good workouts here for the last week, and they all seem to have passed all the tests that we needed to give them. So I would anticipate we'll be able to see all of them tomorrow.
Joe?
Hey, Coach, I wanted to talk a little bit about Brett Kerry. Just his approach to the game, it seems like any other pitcher, I don't know, could handle what he has to handle, from being the back-end bullpen guy to now getting the ball to start a game. Just what makes him so special between the ears to handle all the different responsibilities you have placed on him on the mound?
You know, he's just a gamer. He loves getting the ball. He's very competitive. He knows he has good stuff. He knows how to use it. And he's been so successful so many times that I just think he takes an air of confidence out there to the mound, regardless of the role we've put him in. We've had him start, we've had him close, we've had him be a stopper in the middle of the game. We've used him in every role, and he's always helped us win games. And so at the end of the day, he has the talent, he has the mental fortitude to handle any situation you give him. And he is an intense competitor. He's everything you want in a guy that you give the ball to.
Colin?
Mark, how do you kind of approach managing this pitching staff this week? Obviously, Brett goes tomorrow, but how do you plan on managing that? And does who you start really dictate based off results and opponents and matchups and things like that?
Yeah, we're going to have to look at everything, Colin. Obviously, the matchups, who are you playing? Are they left-handed, right-handed? And which of our pitchers match up best against that? Who's feeling the best? Who's trended the best, in the last couple of weeks and their last few starts? We'll factor all those things in to determine who the next pitcher is, whether it's out of the bullpen or whether it's the next game that we start. Everything will be considered. We're going to leave no stone unturned to make sure we give ourselves our best chance to have success and put guys out there where we feel like, okay, that this is a really good role for them.
Now that Abbott's obviously the official starter for Virginia, what have you seen out of him, and what can he really do that on the mound that can throw you guys off maybe a little bit?
Yeah, he's electric. We had him on the Team USA team 2 years ago, and he threw some really big innings, especially against Japan for us. So he's the real deal. Big time pro prospect. He'll pitch in the big leagues. So it's going to be a great matchup. Him and Brett Kerry going at it are going to be a tremendous matchup, maybe one of the best matchups in the country. For the first game of a regional. So really good fastball, commands the zone, likes to pitch up in the zone, and we'll pitch backwards if necessary too. But just a really elite competitor. And again, everything you say about Brett, you can probably say about Abbott as well.
John?
Virginia seemed to be playing their best baseball at the end of the season. Did you notice anything different about what they were doing and how they were able to win more games and play so well towards the end?
At the end of the day, it's just they started pitching better. I mean, they just started playing better baseball. All teams throughout the country at some point went through good spots and rough spots and everything in between. At the end, they were playing better baseball. They were executing better. They were scoring more runs, and they started pitching better. So they started to put it all together, like a lot of teams have. At this point in the season, that's why at this point it's about being a good team, but it's also about being a hot team. And they obviously started to catch fire there at the end.
Mitch Brown?
Coach, you talked about, during the SEC tournament that you wanted to get your guys healthy. You said you've done that. You also talked about fixing some things and working on what you guys can work on rather than starting and working on Virginia early on this week. How confident are you that you guys have worked out the things that you needed to work out and confident that you guys can get off to a fast start in these games here in the tournament, which is pretty much important in these games?
Yeah. I mean, we worked on the things that needed to be worked on, both as a team, but also with individuals. And so guys watched video, guys worked on the drills that they think lock them in the best because everybody's different. So individually, we worked on the things that we think can help the hitters. And Obviously, you still have to go out there and do it against great pitching in a regional, but we've done the legwork necessary to give guys a chance to have success. So from that standpoint, individual standpoint, I feel like the guys are in a good spot. As a team, we just harped on the fundamentals, getting bunts down, moving runners, quality at bats in RBI situations, defensive situations. We just worked on all of it. And again, we took a little bit of chance to get away from it and recharge the batteries mentally and physically. And then we got to work on the things that we think can help us win games.
Dave?
Mark, what was it that made you put Brett out there for the first game? Was it strictly the matchup, or was it just something else?
Well, he's been our best pitcher here down the stretch. I don't think that's any breaking news. He's been really good. Won the game against Tennessee, shut out Kentucky. He's been our best guy down the stretch. And in a game against Virginia, where you're facing one of the best pitchers in the country, that's how you need to match up. So pretty easy decision for us. And then we feel really good if we can get through that game with who we'll have behind him for the next few games as well.
Colin?
Mark, if my memory serves correctly, Brady Allen was, if not the earliest commit for you, one of your first commits that you got when you took the job. What's that relationship like between you and him, and how important is he for this offense to just click? And it seems like when he's on, the offense goes behind him.
Yeah, he's one of the key guys for us. I would say our relationship is very strong. He was committed to us at the University of South Florida before we came here. And then when we got this job, obviously, there was some communication that he wanted to follow. And so we've had a really good relationship from day one. I've really been thrilled with his development and how much he's improved over the years. Early in his career, I gave him some tough love that he needed, and he's always responded to it very well. And I'm really proud of the player he's turned into. I'm proud of the person he is. He's been raised really well by his family. So he's everything you want. He's a leader. He's one of our team captains, and he plays really hard all the time. So just really thrilled. And I know we'll have that relationship will last a long, long time.
Joe?
Coach, I want to talk about Josiah Seidler for a second. This is a young man who came in locally, who had great expectations around him because of what he did here in the Midlands. The first couple of years, obviously, you had the pandemic. Last year, that cut the season short. But the year before, obviously, probably wasn't the way he wanted it to go. What did you see from him coming into this season that allowed him to be so comfortable being himself and find the success that he did this year?
Well, I think he's a great example of being a talented guy versus being a skilled guy. And what I mean by that is he came in with talent. He could hit the ball a long way, and he was athletic enough to be a two-way player. And he had been drafted out of high school. So there was talent there. But what you need to happen is that talent needs to turn into usable skills. So in other words, batting practice home runs are great, but if you can't catch up to 93 miles an hour in an SEC game, it doesn't do you a lot of good. So he's had to make adjustments with his swing over the years, and he's shortened his swing. He's done things on defense. He's improved a lot on defense. He runs fine, and he's got solid average arm strength in the outfield. But he's worked hard to turn himself into a skilled outfielder, and he makes all the plays that need to be made. And he's become a very viable option out there in the outfield defensively as well. So he's just worked hard to improve his skills so that they were usable in the games. Because early in his career, they just weren't quite usable. He struck out a lot, but he just worked really hard to turn his talent into usable skill. And a lot of guys are like that. Sometimes they come in with the talent and the skill to perform right away. Other guys need more time. And he was a guy that needed some time to turn into that kind of player. But now he's obviously an important cog in that offense.
Phil?
Yeah, hey, Mark. Considering the pitching you're going to face tomorrow and you're going to throw out there tomorrow, runs may be hard to come by both ways. Do you manage a little differently, especially early in the game, to try to create maybe that one run that's just going to be the one run that's going to hold up throughout a ball game like that?
We'll have to see how the game's developing. You have to let the game talk to you when you're managing a game. You have to let the game talk to you. You have to see what the control of the opposing pitcher is. You need to see what, how your pitcher is faring. There's a lot of things that will go into it. And based on how the game is going, maybe you bunt earlier in a game, or maybe you try a hit and run. maybe you slash instead of bunt. I mean, there's a lot of things you just let the game talk to you, and then you decide where to go from there. It can affect you on defense as well, because maybe you bring the infield in the fourth inning instead of the sixth or seventh. Just have to see how the game's going, but I would anticipate it's probably going to be a low scoring game because of who's on the mound. And so we'll have decisions to make, both, guys coming out of the bullpen, where to play your defense, when is too early to bunt, when is not too early to bunt. All those things will factor into it. But again, you can't go into with too many preconceived notions, because sometimes the game doesn't go how you think it's going to go. Sometimes on pitching days, you score a lot of runs and vice versa. So we'll see how the game's going, and then we'll kind of make decisions based on what we're seeing.
John?
With Old Dominion, they're impressive offensively in a lot of ways. What jumps out to you the most about them from an offensive standpoint?
They're just deep. They really drive the ball. They've got a lot of power. They don't strike out a ton, and they've got obviously a very high batting average, and they take good at bats. It's an older group. It's a talented group. They have strength. They have experience, and so they're a lot of these teams now that you're seeing play here deep into the postseason are because they have veteran guys, experienced guys that have a ton of at bats under their belts, and this is a talented veteran team.
Dave?
Mark, looking at the weather, it at least looks kind of iffy for the weekend. But my question for you is, as a coach, how do you let the weather determine your pitching rotation, if you do, considering that if you get a rain delay, you might be sacrificed a pitcher after 2 or 3 innings?
Yeah, we'll have to see how it goes. Obviously, there's this regional has so few games that you can't really say, well, we have to save a guy in case it rains in the 3rd inning. You just have to. You're kind of at the mercy of the weather right now. But what that might provide is, if your starter, let's say game 1 or game 2, only throws 3 innings, and then you have a long rain delay and you can't bring him back that day, he may be able to come back in game 3 or game 4 because you treat it almost like it was a relief appearance. And so maybe you get 3 innings one day and 2 after a day's rest. So that's what you'll see in terms of weather. Weather may affect how you use your pitchers in that way.
Joe?
Coach, I'm sure you answered this question earlier in the week, but I kind of want to circle back. Just tomorrow, what are you most looking forward to finally have that moment that you've worked so hard since you've come here to Carolina to be able to host a postseason playoff game in Founders Park?
Yeah, I just can't wait to see the environment. Obviously, we've seen parts of it during Clemson series, or at the end of the season, we had some great environments against Tennessee in the last SEC weekend. So I'm just anxious to see. I've heard it. I've seen videos of it, ad nauseum. And so I'm just anxious to feel it and be a part of it and have another chapter in Gamecock baseball history. But obviously Founders Park is special. Our fans are special, and we want to have a great weekend on the field as well.